Hidden gems of the Amalfi Coast. Explore the untouched beauty. The chase begins. A sharp gust of salt-laden wind slapped against Luca's face as the speedboat carved through the ink-dark sea. The Amalfi Coast, a postcard-perfect dream to most, loomed ahead like a jagged beast, its cliffs a silhouette against the starlit sky. He clenched the wheel tighter. This was no leisure cruise. It was a race against the past, against shadows that knew his name, against the unknown dangers lurking beneath the tranquil facade of Italy's most coveted paradise. Beside him, Alessia hunched over a faded parchment, its edges curled with age. "The map says there's a hidden grotto past Fiordo di Furor," she shouted over the roar of the engine. "But no one's documented it. It could be a myth." Luca smirked, adrenaline pumping through his veins. "Or it could be the reason we're still alive." The boat cut through the waves, speeding toward the unseen. But before they could reach their destination, a violent explosion shattered the night. A fireball erupted in the distance, where their safe house had been. The sky burned red, illuminating the coast's towering cliffs. Luca cursed under his breath. "They found us," Alessia whispered, gripping his arm. "We move forward," he said, pushing the throttle to its limit. No turning back. The hidden grotto was their only hope now. The answer to the centuries-old mystery, the truth that could either save them or damn them. The grotto's secret. The tunnel walls closed in as they ventured deeper into the heart of the grotto. Their flashlight beams danced across ancient carvings, symbols predating any known Amalfitan civilization. Luca's pulse pounded. The legend spoke of an untouched relic, an artifact that held the power to rewrite history. But something wasn't right. Alessia gasped, stumbling backward. Her light had caught something impossible. A man, cloaked in wet shadows, stood at the end of the tunnel. His face, familiar yet unplaceable, twisted into a grin. "You shouldn't have come," he said in Italian, his voice reverberating through the cavern like a death knell. Luca reached for his knife, but the man raised his hand. The ground beneath them trembled. Water surged unnaturally from the walls, spiraling like living tendrils. Alessia screamed as the current yanked her off her feet, pulling her toward the abyss. Luca lunged, fingers grasping at her wrist, but she slipped through his grip. The last thing he saw was her terrified eyes before she vanished beneath the waves. The Guardians awaken. Sunlight pierced through the water, blinding Luca as he gasped for air. The surface broke violently around him, waves tossing him like a rag doll. He kicked hard, body aching, scanning desperately for Alessia. Then he saw her, half submerged, clinging to a jagged rock near the mouth of another, smaller cave. Blood trickled down her temple. She motioned weakly toward the opening behind her. "We're not alone," she croaked. Luca hauled himself toward her, dragging her onto the ledge. Inside the cave, torches burned in sconces along the walls. Footsteps echoed, growing closer. Luca pressed a finger to his lips, motioning for Alessia to stay low. A group of figures emerged, clad in dark robes, their faces hidden. At the center stood the man from the tunnel, now flanked by two others. In his hands, he cradled an object wrapped in cloth. He peeled it back, revealing a golden amulet embedded with an obsidian stone that seemed to pulse like a beating heart. "The Guardians of Amalfi," Alessia whispered, eyes wide with recognition. "They're real, and they were watching. The final reckoning." Luca barely had time to react before the torches flickered and died, plunging the cave into darkness. A whisper slithered through the air, something ancient, something knowing. The man in the center raised the amulet. The ground trembled. Luca felt an invisible force grip his chest, constricting, suffocating. A spectral wind howled through the cavern, sending waves crashing against the walls. Alessia clawed at her throat, gasping for breath. Then a voice, low, guttural, speaking words that didn't belong to this world. The robed figures stepped back in unison, their leader's grin twisting into something grotesque. The amulet's obsidian stone burned like a dying sun. Luca knew then they had unleashed something they couldn't control. There was only one way out. He lunged forward, ripping the amulet from the man's hands. The instant his fingers closed around it, pain seared through him. Visions flooded his mind, cities lost beneath the sea, civilizations erased by time. And at the center of it all, the Amalfi Coast, untouched, hiding a secret older than mankind itself. With a guttural cry, Luca hurled the amulet into the abyss below. The force holding them captive shattered. The wind ceased. The figures recoiled in horror as the cavern began to collapse. Luca grabbed Alessia and ran, the world crumbling around them. They emerged into the open just as the entrance sealed itself with a final, deafening roar. The Amalfi Coast stretched before them, deceptively peaceful, the waves lapping lazily against the cliffs. Alessia turned to him, breathless. "We just buried a legend." Luca exhaled, watching the sea swallow their secrets. "Some legends are meant to stay hidden."